Greetings from St Mary's, Bairnsdale. I greet in particular our parishioners from our churches across East Gippsland. Today marks the inaugural World Day for Grandparents and the Elderly, as declared by Pope Francis, who was 84 himself. My 4 grandparents were born in Holland, all Catholics. They married and started their families in Holland, all surviving during the German occupation and the devastation of the Second World War. Such was the damage to infrastructure and the challenges associated with war and its aftermath. Many families went from searching for food to searching for a better life overseas. Both sets of my grandparents came to Australia from different parts of Holland. Mum's family in 1951 and Dad's family in 1954. Their faith was the source of their hope. And they made the necessary sacrifices out of love for their children. That's what love does. That's what parents do. In this liturgical year of Gospel readings from St Mark, the sequence is interrupted this Sunday and next with extracts from the Bread of Life discourse from St John. The miracle of the loaves and fish begins chapter 6 and culminates in Jesus revealing himself as the true bread from heaven. Interestingly, the evangelist, John, presents this miracle of the feeding of the crowd of 5,000 as occurring shortly before the feast of the Jewish Passover. This is a very important context for the miracle, because the annual Passover feast for the Jews is a celebration that takes the form of a memorial meal, recalling the marvellous deeds God had done for his people. And uppermost in the minds of the Jews at this meal is the Exodus event, the most important event in the whole of the Old Testament. For us as Christians, every time we celebrate the Eucharist, we are remembering our Passover, our Exodus, out of the slavery of sin and death, led by Jesus into the freedom of the children of God, the promised land, the kingdom of heaven. In the Gospel, after witnessing the miracle, the crowd who followed Jesus believed that because of the signs he showed, he must be the great prophet they'd been expecting, the new Moses, the Messiah, the one they would make king and who would restore Israel to its former glory. But the kingship of Jesus was not of this world, so his victory would not be a political victory or one gained by aggressively leading the defeat of the occupying Roman forces. Rather than give praise in a spirit of gratitude for what God had done, the crowd wanted to harness the power of God in Jesus for their own interests. Jesus, however, was only interested in preparing the crowd for what would be the new Passover, the new Exodus, which would be ratified in the new covenant by his blood through his death and resurrection. The great sin of the Old Testament was to forget. The great lesson of the Old Testament is to remember. Remember, remember, remember what the Lord your God has done for you. At Mass we do 2 things. We remember and we give thanks. We remember what the Lord our God has done for us in giving us his Son to be our bread of life. This Sunday, World Day for Grandparents and the Elderly, we also remember and we give thanks for our grandparents and our elders, who have given of themselves so that we might have life. That's what love does. And that's what God has done. Although we can't attend Mass due to the lockdown, we can remember and give thanks within the temple of our bodies, this temple of the Holy Spirit, in prayer and in acts of charity. Finally, when I was ordained 20 years ago in the cathedral at Sale, my parents presented me with a beautiful chalice and paten. At the base of the gold-plated chalice is a cross, which is the melted down wedding rings of my maternal grandparents. Those rings endure in the same eternal value which was exchanged at their wedding in Holland. Now, as I raise the chalice above the altar of sacrifice, I remember and give thanks for their union, their sacrifices, and the faith, hope, and love instilled from one generation to the next. Long may it continue in your family and mine.